Yo, what's up, guys? Big Rob here. Today I want to talk about raiding and what I think it takes to be a great raider, how to stand out, and how to be that guy on your server. Um, the first most important thing when you're looking for a guild to raid with is you're gonna have to raid with a guild, most likely. I mean, there will be pugs going on and stuff, but for you to get the bang for your buck of your time, you want to find a guild because they'll make compromises with you and you'll make compromises with them, and at the end of the day it's going to give you the greatest benefit. So you want to look for a guild with your vision on what you want to achieve in classic, and one that also has a schedule that works with yours. Not everybody has every single day of the week to commit to playing the game. Some people have 2 days a week to play, 2 nights, whatever it may be. You want to find one that's going to line up with yours. There's going to be a ton out there, at least in the start. So definitely do some guild shopping, see what you can find. But at the end of the day, I believe there's only ever going to really be 1 to maybe 10 good guilds on any server at a time. I mean, that's kind of the way it works. Everybody wants to go up, and thus the talent goes up, and then the rest comes down, and then at a certain point, you're at a point where you're the player levels and dedication to what you're going to do is you're not really going to progress too much more. So you kind of have to change guilds at that point, and that's a whole thing. So you want to try to find something early on that's going to line up with what you're really looking to do in the game. So why do you want to raid at all? Well, most people want to for the loot, obviously the fat loots, but again, that's not really a great motivator, because there will be long periods of time where you're not going to be seeing loot, or you'll get it, but then you'll maybe have to wait 2 or 3 weeks before you get something else, or maybe not. Maybe you get lucky, or maybe you're that guy in your guild who knows the guys up top and you are dedicated, and so you're going to get all that stuff. But for the regular person, you're not going to be getting loot every single time you step into a raid, and that's just part of it. So that's why I recommend to raid for the content and just the social aspect of it. And then the loot is kind of like your little dessert and your reward for putting the time and spending time with your friends and your other raiders and things like that. And nowadays, actually, it's great because the raids don't even really take as long as they used to. Whereas back in the day, the raids used to take somewhere 3 to 4 hours, and you wouldn't even finish the run. That's just how it was. Nowadays, I think most Molten Core runs will take between 1 to 2 hours, if that. So we're looking at much less time spent for overall getting those fat loots at the end of the day. What is required? So how are you gonna raid? How would I begin to raid? Well, the first thing you want to do is obviously hit max level. You need to be level 60 because that's where the content is at the end of the game. Other than that, though, the most important thing is you understanding your class and what your job is and how to do that job. You need to understand what your talents are, what they do, where they're applicable in different situations. And this is all easily done. If you really are clueless and new to the game, you can go online and somebody much more experienced will have a nice layout for you. But it can all be done in game just through reading what your abilities are and putting two and two together and understanding your class through the game, not just listening to what somebody has to say. And this gets into the meme specs not wanted, and I put a bunch of stars next to that because it's not that I don't want to discourage people from playing what they want to play in terms of playing a Shadow Priest or an Enhancement Shaman or Elemental Shaman or a Boomkin Druid or a Ret Paladin. All those things can be played, and if you want to play it, go right ahead. But just don't expect to be like a hot commodity. Don't expect every guild to be vying for you because you're just such a great player. Like, it's just not gonna happen, man. You got to set a realistic goal and understand that everybody wants to progress, and you being a boomkin is not really gonna help your guild progress. It's gonna help them not at all. You're just gonna be a body at that point. It's not really helping. So that's what you have to understand. And it's not to say that guilds won't take certain classes for their buffs or their debuffs, but like, to be that guy, you're just limiting your chances because guilds will take less of the meme spec people than they will of, let's say, a rogue or a mage or a warrior or a warlock. the pure classes, or unless you're a healer of one of those off classes like a resto druid or a resto shaman, you know, those are wanted, of course. But like I said, the weird off DPS specs are not that great, and nor should they be. um After that, you're level 60, you know your spec, you leveled as it, so you know the buttons, you kind of get the rotation down, you've done a few dungeons and stuff like that. All right, so what am I going to do next? We're looking for our attunements, and that is for Onyxia and Molten Core, because those are the only two raids out off the bat that are going to need one. And honestly, they're both super easy. I'm pretty sure you can do the Onyxia one at like level 55, and you can actually get XP for it. It's like a long chain, but you're just doing like talking this guy, turn it in, maybe kill a few things, turn it in, and then boom, you get like a fire resist neck at the end of it. So it's actually a pretty decent chain to do, and I would recommend you do the Onyxia attunement as soon as you can. Same thing with Molten Core, you'll eventually go through that area, the Black Rock Depths and things like that over there, and you can get that done real quick. One thing to note is you do need keys for certain dungeons and things like that, so that's something to be on the lookout for. You know, while playing, I mean, sometimes it's not really worth it to like go out of your way to get a key, because usually somebody else in a group that you're gonna go is gonna have one. But if you want just to know, a lot of the dungeons are gonna need keys, and you can look up which ones do online. Hydroxian Warlords, that's also one of the key reps you should worry about. And as soon as you hit level 60, they're in Ashara, I want to say. The guy Duke Hydraxis, he's on the coast, and basically he gives you a few quests so you can do them, get some rep. But then it's mostly like a sort of a grind with elementals and various mobs throughout the world. Certain mobs and bosses that are elementals will give you rep, and over time you'll build your rep with the Hydraxian Warlords, and that is actually required for your guild to be able to progress into Molten Core, because you will not be able to do Major Domo, which is the second to last boss in Molten Core. So if early on you are looking for a way to kind of like get in somewhere early, if you have the Hydraxian Warlords rep, you're gonna get in somewhere early because they're gonna need you. So that's like a great way to make yourself useful, and like, hey, you know, but that's an early step thing that, you know, you're gonna be ahead of the game anyway, so most likely you'll have things. But anyway, I digress. FR set in a decent state, that's a fire resist set. So basically, that means a gear that will allow you to absorb or resist or take partial hits from fire damage, which is pretty prevalent early on in the game. But from my research, I've seen this is really only something that tanks have to worry about, which is odd, because back in the day, I definitely remember, even as a caster DPS, like I said, we were bad back then. We didn't really know things, but I remember as a caster DPS, like, having a little bit of fire resistance. I didn't have as much as the tanks, obviously, but I definitely had like fire resist gear on. And I mean, granted, we were bad, we didn't know things, like, you know, we were probably not supposed to do that. I don't know, but I just remember that's how it was back in the day. I don't know if nowadays, like I said, I've done the research, and I think you don't really have to wear fire resist as a clothy caster or like a healer. It's really only something that tanks are going to worry about, and melee maybe would want a little bit extra fire resist. But I'm pretty sure you can get away with just using the potions and things like that. The fire resistant potion you can use as a consumable, absorbs fire damage. I'm pretty sure you could just use those and get away with it. Dungeon blues from level 55 to 60. So in that level range, there's actually a pretty large group of pre-raid dungeons that you could do, and they're definitely something to be doing while you're not raiding, because there are some good items in there that will last you a good while, and yeah, that will just help your guild overall progress farther into whatever raid you're doing. Cooperating with other raiders, sharing, and pecking order, these are two. So you're not playing with 20 people anymore. In classic, you're playing with 39 other people. Okay, this is not a small amount of people. Okay, if you've never done it before, it's really something to experience, because it's so many people packed into one little zone doing something all cohesively. It's really something crazy cool to watch. We have to understand there is sharing that's going to happen, and overall that's a great way to, like, I don't know, not necessarily like make yourself seem like a great person, but you know, it's just good to know that, like, hey, this guy is not only looking out for himself. Maybe, you know, we'll look at him later on, and things like that, because that's definitely something that plays in classic WoW. You don't want to be the guy that's like clamoring for every single piece of loot. You know, you don't want to be thirsty for every single piece of loot that drops from the boss. Nobody likes that guy. Everybody thinks that guy is a jerk off because why is he the special one? What makes him better than everybody else that he's going to get all this loot when everybody else is putting the same amount of time in? And that's a big thing. So don't be that guy who's clamoring, dying for every piece of loot, explaining to the loot council or the officers why they deserve this piece over somebody else. That's not their choice. That's the officer's choice and the guild's choice at the end of the day. So don't make their decision any harder than it already is. That's a big thing. And pecking order is just sort of like another like precedent where when dudes have been in the guild longer than you, they're gonna get priority over you on stuff. And if you can't respect that and understand that, then you have no place in raiding, because most guilds are founded on a group of 10 to 15 guys or girls who are putting in the massive amount of time needed to really run a guild and to do the hard things that nobody else wants to do. You just want to show up and play. But there is a lot of other things that go into what happens when you show up and play that, you know, typical raiders don't see. Only somebody who's been in the inner workings of a guild would know. So that's why I'm telling you, give the officers a break and they will like you for it. Last two things I want to cover: what is required, overall strong attendance, and an unselfish attitude. Like I said, it's a 40-man raid. That kind of goes back to sharing. You know, it's a 40-man raid and you have 39 other people to contend with. I don't know, you'll probably have at least 10 to 15 people maybe to compete with your gear slot, depending on what class you're playing. So if you're playing like a cloth caster, you're gonna have a lot of competition on your gear and things like that. So that's what I'm saying. You're gonna have to learn to have an unselfish attitude and not be too super upset if you don't get something, because you'll get something else later on down the line that somebody else probably wants, and that's just the way it works. And strong attendance is important too, because by showing up all the time, you're showing you're committed to the game, you're committed to the guild, and that's just going to help your, again, overall standing with the guild. How people think about you, and how people think about you in classic is important, much like in the real world. So now, after I told you what was required of you, all the things that I think, you know, make somebody you know, to able to be even looked at, how am I going to stand out? What can I do to improve my rank in the guild? What can I do to better myself? And again, strong attendance was the last thing I covered, and the first thing I'm going to cover on how to stand out is being on time, and again, attendance. Because if they can rely on you, they trust to give you gear because they know that gear is being used for the raid. And that's what everything is about, that you're doing with your guild at the end of the day, is making your overall group stronger and able to do things faster, more efficiently, waste less of everybody's time doing tedious things. Okay, help guildies out with materials for raid, use professions for the guild, farm dungeons with less geared members. That's like a, you know, a typical thing when you have some downtime and you're playing and it's not raid night or whatever. You know, say what's up in guild. Ask if anybody needs anything. Ask if anybody needs some help as a question. You know, things like that. They go a long way. And again, just like another way of like, yo, whenever a guild master or something like that, or an officer will talk to somebody, they'll be like, oh, by the way, that guy was so helpful too. By the way, what a nice guy. He's great. And boom. How many people are going to say that to you? It's like good positive reviews, and then eventually your guild masters and officers are going to be like, yo, this guy is awesome, or this girl is awesome, she's always helping the guild, she cares about everybody and doesn't really care like what is happening with her set. Yo, we're going to give her or him this fucking dope ass weapon, you know, because they earned it. And I'm telling you, that's how it works. And it's probably the only game in the world that works like that. Whereas like if you are a good person to other people, you are rewarded. Not like in every other online game where you could just be a toxic, you know, person and be negative and be nasty, and you don't have any negative repercussions for that, you know. And it's the opposite in WoW. When you're good, you get good things. When you're bad, bad things are gonna happen. Be great at farming gold and have an epic mount. That's another thing, you know. Find something to carve out. Carve yourself out a niche of farming on your server. Be that guy. Be part of the Devil Sora farming mafia. be part of the tiers hand farming groups, you know, be set up marathon runs, set up all these different things. There's so many ways to farm gold in the game. There's so many guides online, and not everybody is going to be competing over them all the time, so you can corner that market and make it yours. And having an epic mount is probably the first thing you want to go for after you know, hit 60, you get some gold, maybe you get some professions going. But even then, I would still probably go with my mount over professions right off the bat, just because the movement speed saves you time, and also you look badass, and everybody knows how much work you put in for having that epic mount. And you stand on top of that Orgrimmar hut or that Ironforge bridge with pride, and you look like a badass, and you earned it. Every inspect that you're gonna get on you is earned. Understand fight mechanics better than most. This is kind of self-explanatory. I mean, we're in 2019. This game came out 15 years ago. The mechanics and what the fights do have been out for fucking God knows how long. So please know what you're doing. Don't come into the raid and expect people to tell you what to do. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. People are not going to play the game for you. You need to do the work, and that's it. Go do the research online, look it up. You'll only have to look it up once, because after the first time you look it up and do it, you'll have it memorized. They're not hard. They really are not. Have a mic and use it. Now, that's not to say be fucking talking the whole time you're in a raid, because then that's really annoying. But at the same time, if somebody says something to you, answer them in the raid, answer them in the event, answer them with your mouth. Let people know who you are. People want to hear your voice. People want to have communication. They don't want to just talk to a text box, you know? They want to know there's a person behind that character, and that makes you way more likable, and then everybody can relate to you better too. So use your mic, but don't do it too much, and don't interrupt the raid just to use your mic. There's separate ways you could talk to your friends through most things while still in a raid channel. There's other ways you can get around it, and I recommend to use those, and that way you could still chill and have fun and talk to your friends in raid at the same time, while still listening to the raid leader and not interrupting the flow of the raid. Overall improvements in DPS, HPS, less deaths every raid. So kind of listed that out as a healer, DPS, sort of a tanking thing. But I guess like DPS, less deaths and things like that, that could play for every single spec. So overall, you want to be getting better every single raid. You don't want to be doing worse. I mean, clearly you have experienced the content once, you should have a better understanding it, and thus and thus and thus every single raid. So less deaths every raid is like a tank thing, actually, but it's also a DPS thing. Don't die to stupid shit. Don't stand in the bombs. Don't stand in the fire, because if you're standing in fire and you die, your DPS is 0. So moving and mechanics is actually greater than DPS, because if you do the mechanics, then you can do the DPS. If you don't do the mechanics, you die, you can't do the DPS or the HPS. So living is your number one priority, and then everything else. So by understanding the mechanics of a fight and maybe how things are going to pan out preemptively, you're able to position yourself in a way that's going to allow you to get maximum of your class and character, because you can avoid and have the foresight to do things in ahead of time. Talk to and make friends with people of your same class. They may have an insight on something you overlooked. That's a big thing. There's going to be better players than you out there, so just talk to them. And I'm sure they'll be more than happy to help you. That's the great thing about Clash Royale. A lot of us guys who have been playing this game for a long time and know a lot about the game, we're older now. I'm 28, and I know a lot of other guys are 30s, mid 30s who are playing this game. So we're not negative people. We're not people who want to hurt the world or just bring everybody down. We want to help people, and we want to share what we learned, from our years of playing when we were young with everybody else. And so definitely talk to some people of your class, because you can learn things from more experienced players that maybe you didn't even think about. You never even thought about it, And there's a lot of things like that in Classic WoW, where there's unique little niche playstyle things for each class that you would only know if you played the class. That's it. You would only know it if you played it, or you talked to somebody who was very high level and they explained it to you. That's the only way. You wouldn't just know it through gameplay and watching it, because it's too intricate and like, wow, that was such a crazy thing, And there's a lot of that in WoW. A lot of that in Classic WoW. Your reputation in Classic WoW is everything. Yeah, and that goes along with making friends and being a cool guy and just chill and not really problem starting. Don't start drama just for the sake of it. Don't start drama over loot. It's just not worth it. It's really not. Um, yeah, your reputation is everything. I've seen so many people, man, who have came in, been negative. People tried to put up with them. Chance, until finally, that's it. The guild had it. They kicked them. This person then proceeded to make another character, level them up, get them all the way to 60, reapplied for this guild, joined, and their attitude and their negativity was so ingrained into who they were and their personality. They knew it was the same guy and they kicked him again. They knew right away. They didn't even have to hear his voice. They could just see from the typing and the way he talked. It was the same guy. So, and they kicked him again. And it was like, and then, yeah, like that's what's going to happen. So there are only so many decent raiding guilds on each server. And mostly there are on good terms with each other. If you burn a bridge in one guild over poor behavior, ninja looting, etc., you'll be blacklisted on it potentially. And people will not play with you. Don't be a dick. Just don't. It's not worth it. You're going to cause yourself more harm than good. I'm telling you. These blacklists, these things are a thing in Classic WoW. People are a tight-knit community here. They don't take it. They don't take that kiddie bullshit, man. I'm telling you, they just don't take it. And in Classic WoW, you have the power to handle it, man. I'm telling you. And if you think that you're going to be sneaky and funny on your faction, your own faction, and troll your own faction, think again, bro. They're gonna contact the other faction. Your ass is gonna get camped hard. Just because we're Alliance and Horde doesn't mean anything. We work together on opposite sides, and if anything, if we're both PvP grinding on opposite factions, we're more likely to work together than against each other. Especially if you're like a griefer, or you're screwing up the honor system, or you're just being a general nuisance on the server to all the top guilds. You're going to be dealt with. So that's all I really wanted to talk about in terms of rating and what I think encompasses it all together. It's kind of a lot, but maybe you're asking what I'm going to be doing. I'm not really sure yet, to be honest. Part of me kind of wants to have my own guild and do loot council, have a couple of good buddies of mine be the officers and things like that, and branch out from there. I'm just not sure how many people would really be interested in it. And like I said, creating a guild and having a guild like this, it's something that requires a lot of work, and I would need other people to be there with me. I can't, this isn't something I can do on my own. A guild isn't something you can do by yourself. I can't go out and just be one guy recruiting people, trying to get everybody to come together. I need assistance from other people who are kind of want to take it seriously as well. And if I had that, I would more than happy to put the work in to really have something great and special. But like I said, it's still up in the air. Even when Classic starts, I don't know if I'm going to join a guild right away, and then maybe we have some time from there to see who is interested, who is not interested, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. But I'm going to post my Discord link in the description, so if you are interested in joining up with me or my friends and things like that and want to play as a guild together, then join the Discord, say what's up, let me know what's going on, let me know your thoughts about Classic and things like that and what you're looking forward to. I really want to talk to you guys and start to form a group of dudes who we can have fun and raid and take it easy, but also get shit done, get the job done, get some loot, have everybody where they want to be early on and going forward. So if you're interested in that, please join the Discord, say what's up. Thanks for watching, guys. This is Big Rob. I'm out.